Good afternoon, action figure plus fans. This is the General coming back at you with a little Defiant repair of the crank. Often these Defiants have cranks that aren't working or they're busted for whatever reason. It's the most fragile piece, of course, of the Defiant to get it fixed. And of course, definitely affects overall value if the crank is working or not working. So I'm just going to go through some fixes that I have come up with throughout the years doing these ships. And yeah, just so stay tuned for all the methods on how you could possibly fix your crank without having to, spend an absolute fortune trying to do that. So, as you can see, we got some broken plastic in here in this section here. The crankshaft, excuse me, goes forward, and this little point here, the end here, all I've done is created this little bent piece of metal here just to kind of do that. And I'm probably just going to secure it with some, I wouldn't say, I mean, you could glue it down, but I would say just use some mounting tape or something just in case there's an issue or there's whatever and you need to move that or adjust that for whatever reason. Glue is kind of a permanent one-way ticket trip, whereas mounting tape, we can make adjustments and things like that. So the first thing I would suggest is doing something like that. And then the next thing is issues that are often broken on Defiance are this area here where the spring attaches to the strut or whatever it is. Often these are broken. Thankfully, in this case, this one isn't, but this one is. And so what I've done is one thing you can do is with a crafting drill, with a crafting like you get maybe at a Michael's or something like that, just a crafter's drill. All you would do is just kind of bore a hole in between this area here and this area here. And then from there, all you do is take a paper clip, something like a paper clip, bend it into the shape of the of the hoop that the spring would hook into, and just on each end of the staple, use some Gorilla Glue. That's all I've done. But the thing is, you got to go right down into this thing, yeah, like right down straight into this part here, and this part here. Bend it. Take some fill the hole with Gorilla Glue. Let that dry. And what I've done for now is just use a little bit of some JB weld just to sort of create the plastic weld, just to create that sort of hoop. Now, as you can see, there's a little bit of muck there. That's just because I had put the spring in and uh, just try to take it out or try to test it out. And of course, it just kind of knocked off a little bit of that JB weld there. But after everything is all in play, I'm going to go and probably take a little bit more JB weld and then just kind of fill in that little bit of a crack there, just to kind of fill that in. And yeah, should work. But like I said, stay tuned and we'll see what kind of results we get after we do that. Okay, so stay tuned. So as you can see, I've gotten one of the springs on. It seems to be working so far. Again, it's very, very delicate, so be very careful. Now I got to put the other spring on. Now this is an important part too. Most people may not be aware of. When the Defiant is in the sitting position, when the gantry and all that stuff is sitting, level and flat, not elevated, that's when the most tension on the spring is at. So, just to keep that in mind, when you're in the down position, that's where most of the tension of the spring is on. But when it comes to putting the spring back on, do not try to put the spring on and pull the spring all the way over to here. You'll risk damaging that, if not breaking it off entirely. So what you got to do is you got to make sure one of these like the other strut is down so that this point ends up closer here. I'm going to show you this in just a second here. Notice how much closer it is to where the other end of the spring hooks on. There's a lot of tension on this stuff, and this is for over 40-year-old plastic. Very, very fragile. So you got to get your spring kind of closer and your strut closer to there. That's my recommendation on that aspect. Stay tuned. As you can see, we've successfully put the spring back on. We're not done yet. We still have to put our gears and the other two pieces that go down here. So just make sure you have all that in position. Try, in my opinion, the spring is better suited to go on the interior side of the struts. I suppose in the end it doesn't overly matter, but just for the looks and everything, I think on the inside portion looks better in my opinion. So stay tuned for the rest of this crankshaft being put together here. All right, so here we go for main crank test. Now, on this particular Defiant, we got some work to do here just to kind of get this piece here stable, because it's kind of busted a bit. So I suggest do not, and I repeat, do not crank it with all kinds of thrill and frill as though you were 7 or 8 years old. Take your time. Slowly but surely. Just take your time. And again, this is all a lot different too when all the weight is on it, because there's going to be a lot of weight on this pretty soon. This is just showing you a method to potentially fix it. And I know everybody's way is different. Everybody gets this, everybody gets that. But this is trying to do it and fix it in a way so that the repair doesn't look like it's been fixed. You know, just slowly, slow turns. You know, and we're getting it into a point at this height, more or less where it would be on takeoff or about to be. You can probably go higher. Like I said, this is a very old toy now. And so it's very hard to predict what's going to happen with glue and shifting. So there you go, folks. This is roughly how one way you could potentially repair a crank. I may, excuse me, have this all together at some point or another just to make sure and it supports the weight and everything. But so far, crank is looking promising. I'm going to, if you just give me a moment, I'm going to flip this over again. And I'm going to just, now that we've got that in play, I'm just going to show you how we're going to possibly deal with this little bit here, just to make sure that that's kind of good and snug and secure. Because, you know, who knows what can happen, eh? All right, folks, stay tuned for more updates on the Defiant. General out.